Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
There are few circuits steeped with as much history and legend as the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. From the sights of the Tifosi covering the track to the bellows of victorious Ferrari drivers through the years, this place is not only a holy temple of speed, but a space of sacred emotion for racing drivers and racing fans the world over. And today, drivers of the Radical Racing Challenge look to add their names to the many who have tasted success here at this Italian circuit. Hello everyone and welcome to Apex Racing TV. My name is DJ Clark, joined here in the commentary booth by Sam Fitzpatrick, who's also on directing duties. And Sam, putting aside the history and legend of this track, from a racing perspective, today looks to be all about speed, momentum, and that ever-crucial draft.
For sure. This is always a draft circuit, no matter what cars that you visit it in. Such long straights, some big braking areas as well, but also a circuit that everyone knows like the back of their hand. So I'm hoping that we're going to see one of the closest races of the season and maybe even a last lap fight. That's what we're all really hoping for at home.
Yeah, and we certainly could see that out here, as if you're really able to stay within about that 1 second mark of the driver in front of you, just about anything is possible. Drivers right now are out on track for qualifying, and we focus in on Johannes Hestermann, who works his way around the number 9 right now, coming out of the Variante Ascari, and one of the more difficult chicanes on this circuit. Really crucial to try to carry as much speed as possible, because that sets you up here down this sort of back straightaway and into Parabolica, which is the point that you have to set up if you want to be able to get a move down into the first chicane.
Yeah, and in qualifying it's ever so important as well to wind up the car around that part of the circuit and then launch it down, because the start-finish straight does come up fairly early. And Johannes Hestermann is one of the drivers, pretty much everyone else on circuit at the moment, because it is a solo qualifying session. So they won't be able to see one another as Hestermann. That's not the line that you want. He barely got it round the corner. But I know, I'm trying to look on the positives here, DJ. It takes the pressure off. You're thinking, okay, let's just get this lap in. I'll be ahead of the drivers who failed to put in a lap time, which will be a couple of drivers, I imagine. But in reality, it's not the best way to start your qualifying lap. You will have one more attempt after this, though.
Yeah, he'll get one more bite at the apple as he comes through the second chicane. I dare say that looked a lot more clean and a lot more together, taking the perfect amount of exit curbing there as he dives it now down into Lesmo 1. This is one of those areas that we may have to watch out for over the course of the race. Very, very easy to run wide there, pick up a little bit of understeer, and find yourself out and into the gravel. Looks like Hesterman's been able to get everything else together, though, and now he's going to bring his way under the old banking. Yes, that does still exist around this circuit, and thanks to the beauties of iRacing, you can actually still go race it if you are so inclined. But Hesterman now bringing the car through the Variante Ascari. Got to be very, very careful through there. Those big, big sausage curbs up to the inside, Sam, those will really, really bite you in these radicals.
First few drivers setting their lap times. Woodward in. Redmond, we're just watching right now, although he's currently at the bottom of the drivers. Bell with an excellent lap time. Michael Bell, Joe, who we don't usually see around. Australian driver, car number 4, seat number 4 for tonight. But that's a very strong time. Mark Montana interesting, seat number 1. Invalidated his first lap time. He's put a lot of pressure on himself. Felix Samo's out there. What can... Well, that's what Philip van den Hurk can do. He goes to pole position, only 100th of a second clear. However, and the second lap times are almost always faster than the first lap time. So I wait for some improvements right there. I'm looking at what this man's going to do. Felix Samos has won a couple of races so far. This season's been very strong in recent weeks. And the seed number 2 with a decent lap time so far. I think they're still right, but no purple sectors from what I'm seeing.
No purple sectors here at this point. It actually looks like Lucas Perez is the one that's been able to put down those, but let's ride on board here with Felix. Let's keep an eye out. Perfect amount of curbing there. Coming out of Parabolica, once again, letting that car run wide, trying to pick up as much momentum as possible. And Simoes is going to cross over the line here. That's going to be good enough for P3, but he'll find himself about 0.2 of a second off Van den Hurk, so he'll still have a little bit more to do as we focus here on Perez. That was the one that was setting the times alight, and indeed a 1/10.5 up on the rest of the field. Perez jumps to pole position.
Excellent work. Some good times as well being set by Fabrice Bernier right now. Loads of drivers who we don't usually see. Brilliant stuff. Monza attracting some fantastic drivers tonight. Woodward just crossed the line. Can he improve? I think he's going to stay in 5th position. Bernier's looking very strong. Bell goes to the top. Bernier only good enough for P4 across the line there, but there are still others. Mario Medeo perhaps could do something. Philip van den Hurk has also got to complete his lap. We will catch with him just a second. Medeo goes P3. What can van den Hurk do? He's racing towards line full throttle. Some purple sectors for him. Is it enough for pole? It is. 0.16 of a second faster than the rest, but there are some still danger men to pop up as Nunez puts himself in P5.
Yeah, good lap there for Nunez to be able to do that. Van den Hurk's going to be very, very pleased with that time. I think he'll probably start at worst in the top 3. We ride on board with Perez there. Looks like that car is getting a lot of buffeting now. Let's see how he's able to take Variante Ascari here just to the right and to the left of those big sausage curbs. That's about as perfect as you can do it. And indeed, he was purple there through Sector 2 and Sector 3 on this lap. So this may be a little bit of a flyer here for the Iberian driver. He's now just really has one more corner to go. We're going to jump back to Simoes. Let's see if the Portuguese driver is able to improve here at this point. He'll cross over the line. Is that going to be improvement? No. Simoes is going to be starting all the way down in 8th place. That is very surprising on the day. The number 12, though, for Perez, he will cross over the line. Good enough for P2. Van den Hurk looks like he's going to be able to hold on to that top position for now.
Yeah, that should be the big rivals gone, because Cesar Fernandez-Seijas is not going to be challenging for that high A position. So great work there from Philip van den Hurk, but boy has he got some competition tonight. Several drivers who we have not seen in the series ever before joining us tonight. And it's going to be an extremely high strength of field race. In fact, I might be able to show you the strength of field a little bit later on with all these drivers out there. There are still some drivers out on circuit, but don't be too concerned about them. They have put in their lap times. They get 2 lap times limited. Interestingly, 5 drivers failing to put in a lap time. Tipton and Bootland didn't seem to even try to put a lap in right there. And so maybe a few drivers out of position. But, well, we want a toe battle, DJ, and I think we're going to get it.
Yeah, I think we are as well. We'll certainly, looking like based off those qualifying times, the drivers are going to be close enough to be able to take full advantage of the draft. And I wonder for some of the drivers like Dibden and Bootland if that's maybe a strategic call to not set a qualifying time down. We often see a lot of a big flashpoint going down into turn one, and so maybe they are trying to think to avoid any of that comings together. But that is going to go ahead and bring us to the qualifying grid, but it's going to be Philip Vandenherk, followed by Lucas Perez, then Michael Bell and Mario Medeo in your top four. Ruiz Nunez will be P5, followed by Fabrice Bernier, then Chris Redmond and Felix Simoes. Robert Woodward, Josh Brain, Aris Papadopoulos, and Robert Wayne make up your top 12. In 13th, it's going to be Mika Holkinen, followed by Marco Giuliani. Then Armis will be in P15, followed by James Kalinowski. Cesar Sejas will be 17th, followed by Mark Montagnier. Then it's Tony Dibden, Johannes Hesterman, Andy Bootland, and Robert Van Wall that will bring up the back of the grid here. And as always, a standing start, and a standing start at Monza means that braking zone down into the first corner. Woo-hoo-hoo. Drivers, be careful.
Oh yeah, this is one of the trickiest turn ones that you have in all of real-life racing or sim racing. And so they're going to have to be on edge. There's our pole sitter, Philip Vandenherk. And yeah, let's get some images as well of the site for a few of these other guys looking down at turn one. Michael Bell starting in P3. I am going to be looking out for, most likely, Mark Montana, who isn't even on the grid yet, so I can't look at his on board. Now I can. And he's starting all the way back there. He's the senior boy. He's got the highest iRacing of anyone. He is going to be storming through the field, I am sure.
Yeah, he is definitely going to be one to keep our eyes on there, as it looks like we wait for Lucas Perez. That is the last driver to grid up here. Again, drivers do have about 2 minutes to be able to get their way onto the grid. Is there, Perez is on, and we get ready to turn our eyes to the lights here as 5 lights go on, and immediately they go off, and we are racing in Italy. And, oh, it's a very slow getaway there for the number 12, and that's going to be the 6 of Medeo immediately streaking out to the outside. Vandenherk's going to be able to hold onto that front line, but it looks like there the Medeo's going to fall back into line a little bit. Nunez and Gonzalez trying to be able to fight themselves around there. There they go. Little bit of bumping and banging down through turn one, but it looks like everybody's been able to get through nice and cleanly as they now work their way through Curva Grande. Still a little bit of side-by-side farther back in the pack between Nunez and Perez here as they try to duke it out. This is a battle that could end in tears going down into the second chicane. A little bit more side-by-side farther back down in the pack. Big move up to the inside there for Bernier, and a little bit of contact. That's Bernier jumping over the sausage curbs, and multiple drivers taken out and sent down through the field. That's the number 6 of Medeo. I also see the number 11 of Chris Redmond taken out.
Oh, that was a mess. That was a mess. We had one driver, I think it was the French driver, I think, of Bernier. I think he sent it up the inside, and everyone sort of reacted, I think. Half the judges missed the chicane, a couple of judges thought they got through but then made contact in the second part of the chicane. We'll get a replay of it, I'm sure, but this man, James Kalinowski, is up 11 places right now after that mess as Bernier has gone off the circuit and he is in a firing spot there. Fortunately, single file a bit. I think that was just a bit of contact for a couple of the judges ahead, and it's more contact. I think that was 2 separate incidents while the judge slowed down, and I feel like it was Montanez who went straight into the back of Bootland, I believe. But I want to see pack racing. We're not going to get much pack racing because the field is spread after one lap.
Yeah, it really is. We have to jump back here to Aris Papadopoulos, who's really one of the closer ones in a train here. He has Mika Holkinen behind him. A little bit of a closer running right now. Iram Armis, that's going to be Anthony Van Wall right up ahead of them. That looks to be Giuliani trying to make maybe a little bit of a move here as we focus our way down through the field. The number 19 trying to defend, but it does look like Van Wall's able to get ahead of him. That's going to be the number 6 of Medeo trying to gain back a few positions, sending it down to the inside. That was very, very pretty, putting Armis down 2 spots in the course of a single straightaway. Looking ahead, ooh, that is going to be Johannes Hesterman having a little bit of a problem. Doesn't look like too much damage to that number 9, but that is certainly going to send them out. Here is Cesar Sejas right now that we follow. Felix Simoes, one of those drivers that is having to fight his way back up through the field. The number 2 getting things caught out there. He's down 7 positions. He's going to have to wait another day. Now going to look to the inside, coming into Lesmo 1. This is going to be a gutsy move from Simoes, and indeed, he's going to back off.
Yeah, just a matter of time, I think. Big iRacing difference between those two splits we've had tonight. And this, of course, as always, is the top split and probably the highest strength of field we have all week long. So there are some good battles right now, and a few drivers who are out of position, a few drivers with damage as well, I'm sure. I'm not seeing too many, but there must be after the chaos that we saw earlier on, and that is Van Wall being able to get past, apologies, Medea getting past Van Wall right there, and it'll be Armis who will be, I think, past maybe on this very straight, honestly, because this is the run that he has currently got. And he is drafting to the inside, the 18 and 19 seeds. Armis looking much better right now, and he is past.
He's going to send that down in there, but there could be a little bit of a fight back right now from Van Wall as they'll be side by side as they come down the start-finish straightaway. And I think for Van Wall, crucially, he's going to be able to get a little bit of a toe off of Mario Medeo there ahead of him, and that should actually help pull him along a little bit ahead of Armis here. And there you see just the effect of that draft. Armis is going to have to fall back into line, gets on the binders a little bit earlier, and on a bit of a compromised line there that'll cost him about a tenth of a second. Farther back, Dibden and Redmond going side by side through the first chicane. It looks like there that the number 11 is going to have the preferred line coming through Curva Grande, and indeed that's going to play out there for him. Felix Simoes says, I would like some of that as well, as he's going to poke his nose to the inside there of Tony Dibden, and it looks like the number 2 is going to be up another position. If he can be later onto the binders here, that battle not over yet. Dibden trying to fight back. He's going to slide himself in line. Good defense there from the UKNI driver.
Apex Racing TV in shambles as we commentate on 3 red cars, 2 of which with absolutely identical liveries. Come on, guys. Make it a bit easier on us, we would appreciate. I think Bell managed to get past Nunes just a second ago, and that was for P3. Let's get a replay of how this one happened. It didn't seem to be much of a fight. Well, actually, it was a bit of a fight, dare I say. Well, I was going to say it was a fight for Alonso. Not quite. Didn't quite push him out that far. But the car number 4 of Michael Bell was able to get past, and he is up into 3rd position as it stands. Hasn't broken the draft there. I think Nunes might be able to come back later on, as that is Redmond, who is back with Dibden again, and he's going to go all the way to the inside of the circuit. Dibden desperate to go up the inside of Redmond, moving back to the racing line. He's gone way too deep there. He'll be very compromised on the exit. I think the man who's going to be most advantage of this is going to be just behind. But it's all going on now. Bell is into the wall, and that is collision with Nunes heading into turn 1. I said that he was still in the draft. He was a little bit too close.
Yeah, a little bit too close there, as it looks like there was just that contact coming down into the corner. Let's check out the replay. Oh, there was definitely some space in between those two. I think that is the unfortunate net code.
Oh, I think this was really messy. Sorry to interrupt, but I think this was really messy down the straights. Because I'm saying he was off track, was Bell, beforehand.
Oh. All right, we watch this here.
Oh, maybe not. No, that was just it, yeah. I was expecting to see Bell on the grass all the way down the straight there from what the live timing was telling me, but no, it was just that one instant.
Yeah, just that one incident, unfortunately, a little bit of netcode there. And that can happen when you have such a multitude of drivers from different countries here with everybody trying to connect to a similar server, that isn't exactly unexpected here. Oh, Tony Dibden, that car looks like it's absolutely dancing. It looks like Senna driving the Lotus back in 1986, the way it just constantly is moving around there. I wonder if he's just trying to struggle a little bit to keep everything under control. But we've got to check back in on the front of the field, because Vandenherk and Perez have themselves a nice little battle here. Perez is going to get a nice heaping of the draft now coming down the start-finish straightaway, and let's see if he decides to go for the move. He's certainly got the overspeed. He's going to hit that big wall of air if he decides to pull out, and he's not going to. He's going to stay in line here despite setting the fastest lap of the race last time out.
Yeah, he knows that there's no point in batsing. He knows that he's not fast enough to pull away. And he doesn't want to get Nunes involved in this one if he can possibly help it. So he's going to stay behind for much of this race and just try to pull that move on the last couple of laps. But certainly that one should go down to the final lap, I assume. Van Wall continuing to pull back a little bit. That time it is... well, no, I think he's trying to come back against Armis. Yeah, because they're the 18 and 19. I remember that from lap 1. Redmond right there, Dibden right there, Samoa's, so they've all caught up to these guys who are a couple of seconds off the pace right now. And look at this could even be 3 wide heading into the chicane. But they get roughly into single file. I think that was Armus who lost 2 places. He's going to lose more now because he's made contact with 2 further cars. That's Bootland and Samoa. Samoa's just had nowhere to go whatsoever. And the Portuguese man has had an absolute mare of a race.
And I wonder there for Armus if that was a little bit of contact there, or if he maybe just got onto the throttle pedal a little bit too hard, a little bit too aggressively, and spun those rear tires. That's not uncommon to see here in these radicals. Let's go back and check out the replay here. We focus in on Armus, just sort of letting everything go by. Catches it maybe a little bit too much at the curb and overcorrects the car, and you can see that massive hefty damage there to Simoes. That is not going to be what he would have liked to have seen, and Simoes going to find himself in 17th with some pretty sizable damage on the front of that number 2. Meanwhile, the battle that we were following a little bit earlier, Redmond, Van Wall, and Sejas, they continue to Dibden, Redmond, and Van Wall continue to duke this out. Is Michael Bell coming down into pit lane? I can only assume that is for damage.
Yep, it was a fairly sizable hit with the wall. His pace seemed to be good enough to stay out, but once you get a meatball, you got to serve it eventually. Well, unless it's in the last 5 laps, then just continue on, guys. No point in pitting. Redmond is past Dibden. Red car versus red car. And, well, car number 11 versus car number 7. I feel like those two are very evenly matched. In fact, Redmond was slower on that last lap of the race. So, yeah, I think these guys will stay close to one another. Van Wall might be able to stay in the draft a bit. He is a fair bit slower. These guys are caught and past Van Wall. He now sits a second behind them. Woodwards. Well, these guys going off the circuit, according to our screen. There were certainly all 4 wheels off the circuit there. And that's his Hulkkonen, another new driver to the series. He's being caught right now by Woodward and Giuliani. 16, 10, and 20. All battling for what are some quite coveted positions.
Yeah, this is the battle up for the top 10 right here, up into P7 to be exact. Hulkkonen holding on to that position. Looks like a good line there for Robert Woodward. He's going to continue on, tucking behind in the draft. I think Giuliani lost a 10th or 2 coming through the Variante Ascari. He was doing a lot of movement coming down under the bridge, so we'll have to see if that maybe is what cost him, or if he just got it a little bit wrong coming through Ascari. These drivers going to work their way around now through Parabolica. All of those lines looking pretty good, but it looks like Woodward's now going to be in the one to have lost a little bit of time, and Giuliani hopefully going to be pressing behind to see if he's able to make that push. Marco going to tuck up behind in the slipstream. A little bit of a fade to the inside as they come down, getting past the 300-meter boards onto the binders here. It looks like Woodward's actually going for a move. Lock up, and that was almost contact there, and I think that scared Mika Hulkkonen off of the line, and Woodward going to have to lose positions courtesy of the runoff.
Love him to go through the foam bollards there, but it's fairly redundant. iRacing will still give you a hefty slowdown regardless of whether you're that polite or not to the marshals. But that is a shame for Woodward, and yeah, he just absolutely locked up the tires. You can see the smoke, and once you lock it up that first time, you know it's gone. You can either lift off the brake and just not make the corner, or you can continue pressing the brake, and the brake will do absolutely nothing, and you'll shed your tires. So there's really not a solution. Oh, that's off the circuit for Giuliani. He ran too wide. He's slapped the wall there, or the wall has slapped him potentially, and well, he's back with Woodward again.
Yeah, the battle continues on there, and that's Mario Medeo. Medeo now get involved in that battle as well. That looked like a bit of a strange incident for Giuliani. I'm not sure what happened, but Medeo now going to take a look down to the inside of Ascari. He's going to go for one position to put that down on Giuliani, able to make the move pretty cleanly there, and now he's going to set his sights up ahead on Woodward, but maybe Giuliani's got a little bit more speed. We focus you back up through the field. This is Papadopoulos here, Aris Papadopoulos, trying to close in on the back of James Kalinowski up ahead of him. This is going to be a battle for P5 right now for that final position in the top 5. It looks here like Papadopoulos is a little bit too far back at this moment, but he's certainly gaining in under the effect of the draft.
It was incredible how much steering lock he was putting in at Parabolica. These cars understeer. It's realistic. It's more realistic than the SRA, at least from what I've heard. Obviously, I've never driven a Radical, but from what I've heard from drivers who have driven radicals, this model is more realistic. It's not necessarily the most enjoyable to drive, however, with that understeer. And a lot of the drivers are scaling lots of the car by putting in 90 degrees of steering angle through some of these sweepers at Monza. And that will only get worse as the race goes on. Can overheat the tyres very easily. And whilst it's not quite as bad as last season, still one of the main elements when racing this car is keeping those tyres in good shape right to the last lap. There is an off for Tony Dibton. There he is. Don't go too far back, Tony. That is on the exit of the second chicane.
Yes, it is. I wonder if that was contact or if that was a little bit of a self-spin. We've seen a couple of self-spins from that point on the track at multiple points over the course of this race. I can tell you Papadopoulos was able to get that move on Kalinowski, as it looks like Kalinowski has had a problem here at this point. But we're going to go back and check out what happened here to Tony Dibton. The number 7 comes down into the corner. Does he just clip a little bit of that outside gravel? Yes, he does, and that's enough to send him in the wall. Just a little bit of a dink there. I don't think that's going to cause too much damage to the front of that splitter. So Dibton's going to get everything back under him, and he is hustling the car. You saw just how much he took there over the sausage curbs. Now this is going to be what happened to James Kalinowski. This is coming down into a scary here as he gets onto the binders for the left-hander. Oh, and it looks like there that may have been a little bit too much speed, a little bit too much brake bias, and that sent it around. And interesting, there Papadopoulos, who was right behind him, spinning in sympathy.
When you see two drivers both crash on the event viewer, who were battling one another, I think 99 times out of 100 they've got something to do with one another. No, that time just solo mistakes, and Papadopoulos just feeling sorry for his rival there and decided to leave some time himself. That was very unexpected. What we just saw, Kalinowski being caught by Madej and Woodward. Woodward couldn't have believed that this would be going so well. When he was going across the grass a couple of laps ago, it was shambles. He was in shambles. He's back in it. He's back to where he started in this race, 9th place, and he could get a top 7. Out of this. And Kalinowski, by the way, just to give an idea, he lost 10 seconds on that last lap. It was a really, really bad spin just because he rotated by an awkward amount. If it had been 90 degrees, it would have been better, but he spun by about 180, I think.
Yeah, he did, and had to get it back around there as we got a little bit of side-by-side. That's Giuliani and Redmond trying to hold off each other, or Woodward and Giuliani, excuse me, trying to hold each other off. We watch the number 10 here coming out of Ascari, although it looks like Madej may have a little bit of a run on Kalinowski in front of him. Let's see if that number 6 decides to make that play. We ride on board with the Racing Pointless driver of Robert Woodward as they go down into Parabolica. Multiple lines being taken. Looks like a little bit of a wide run there for Kalinowski. Is that going to slow him down a little bit? It actually looked there for a second like Mario Madej may have checked up and now doing a little bit of weaving going down the start-finish straightaway. I think Kalinowski's certainly feeling the pressure, but both of these drivers are going to have to watch out for the overspeed. And number 10, here they go, thinking about going 3 wide down into turn 1. That's not going to happen. It's going to be Madej that's able to get the move done. Woodward stays in line. Giuliani is going to stick into 4th as Kalinowski has a big wiggle coming out of the chicane.
You could see the flashbacks right in front of Woodward's eyes there as he went on the inside of 3 cars into turn 1. He didn't want to go across the grass for a second time in this race, and so did the very wise thing at backing out of it. Second chicane, that I think he feels a bit more confident at, and he's exhibiting that right now. He's passed Giuliani and apologies. He's past Kalinowski, Giuliani at the back of this train. So Kalinowski, remember, had that brilliant start. He was up into 5th place at one point. He was up 11 places at one point in this race. He's still up a fair few places, but kind of being overtaken by these guys who had issues earlier on in the event. But Giuliani's not doing too much behind these guys, even though he almost got past Woodward on that previous lap. He seems to have lost a little bit of pace all of a sudden, maybe a slight mistake from him. The battle's starting to calm down, I think. Most of the drivers getting back into the positions that really they ought to be, but you have still got that lead fight. We haven't been showing it too much. I think that we're going to show it for the next couple of laps because it doesn't really matter too much. They're waiting behind each other. Perez doesn't need the lead right now. He'll wait behind until the last couple of laps in order to do it.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, and certainly with the effect that we've seen of the draft and of the slipstream around here, I think if you are Perez, it is just a matter of waiting until that final lap. So we're only about 3 laps away from that point here at this point. That's how fast these races fly on by. Here comes Woodward getting a move done on Kalinowski, though. He's going to jink out to the outside, what will be the outside of the first chicane. The number 10 going to try to carry as much speed as possible. Mateo going to get right in his firing line. That may check him up a little bit, but it's going to be of no matter because he was able to get the move done there on Kalinowski quite easily, and now he'll set his eyes ahead to Mateo there right up ahead of him. Kalinowski may have a little bit of a fight back here. Kalinowski trying to carry some good speed down through Curva Grande, but it doesn't look like he's going to be able to get the overlap, or is he? They're almost going to bang doors as they come down into the second chicane, but Woodward able to rebuff the attack.
And that was an awful chicane there from Mateo, and it's opened the door for Woodward. He was all on the defence, and then all of a sudden, he's basically gifted P6 right there. Medea's off the circuit, but manages to keep it in a straight line. Woodward still with his car partial, and also you lose so much time by going alongside through Lesmo 2, and Kalinowski's going to take advantage of that. There's contact down the straight between the two of them, and Kalinowski might be up a couple of places here, as Medea does the wise thing, tries to give Woodward the draft. Now he has to cover off the inside to make sure that he stays ahead of Kalinowski, and Woodward actually might be able to sweep around the outside here, but it's too narrow a corner, and he does have to slot back in behind, and the man who benefits from this is Giuliani and Redmond. Redmond wasn't even in picture a few moments ago, but I think he's gained by 4 seconds in the past lap and a half.
Well, that's exactly what all of this battling up at the front can do, as you see Mateo weaving back and forth, trying to break that draft as much as possible as they come down through Parabolica here. And we have 2 laps to go at the line for these drivers. 2 laps to go. Great run there through Parabolica for Robert Woodward, and he'll be able to move down to the inside, get the draft off of Mario Madeira here as they thunder down the main straightaway. It looks a little bit like Kalinowski's going to be left out sitting, as now here comes Woodward. Going for 1, going for 2. Can he be later on the binders down into the chicane? He'll have to go the long way around the first part. Out braking himself, there is Mateo, and that's going to now allow for Kalinowski to be able to get the spot back.
Fixed setup, remember, but you wouldn't have guessed it. The overspeed for Woodward was mighty down the straight. He was a long way behind, but well clear heading into the chicane. And Medea having to, well, he's led this train incredibly well. I know he did make that mistake on the previous lap, but on the most part he's defended superbly. And he does it once again, just positioning his car in the right place, but he cannot get away because whenever they're within half a second going onto a long straight, he's a sitting duck. Now this is where it matters. Vandenhoek versus Perez. This whole race has been leading up to this last couple of laps. I think the big question is, DJ, where do you go for the move? Do you make it into turn 1 or do you make it into the second chicane? I don't think you want to be making it into a Sky. I think that's risking it too much, but turn 1 or turn 3, I think that's the big choice.
Yeah, I've got to agree with you there. You want to make it into the first or the second chicane, wherever possible. Now, we've seen Perez lift off here down this main straightaway many a time. And we'll have to see if he does the same thing here and maybe try to set himself up for a better run down into the second chicane. No, he's going to go for it here. Down into the first chicane, side by side with Vandenhoek as they go down. Perez easily has the position, able to get the car woed up and pulls away a little bit to the tune of about 0.3 of a second here, but that gap's going to come back down again as they work their way through the Curva Grande. What is Philip Vandenhoek able to do here at this point? Is he able to fight back, taking the shortest distance that he can to try to get the power on? Is he going to have a little bit of a look around the outside of the chicane? He's certainly going to think about it. Squirrely under braking there was Perez. Vandenhoek not able to get it done. He's really only going to have that shot going down into Ascari left to go.
I'm sure they'll both have off-tracks spare, so they can go all the way to the track limits if they want to and try to get as much speed as they can. This one as well, you see if you've got the tyres remaining, if they're overheated, or whether you've still got some grip left on this Italian tarmac in order to make a proper attack for the end. Perez at the moment with this one managed out. It's not easy to make the move into Parabolica, but he's still got to nail this Sky chicane. Brilliant speed carried in there from Vandenhoek, but he wasn't able to carry the mid-corner speed. And Perez opens up that gap now to 0.4 of a second. And dare I say, I think it would have to be a mistake in order to allow the European back into it.
I've got to agree with you there on that, but one more corner to go here. Can Vandenherk elicit a mistake out of Perez? It's going to be Vandenherk going as wide as possible to try to carry as much momentum as he can, but he loses a couple of tenths in the process of doing that. And coming to the line, here comes Lucas Perez. He will take victory here at Monza. It's going to be Vandenherk coming home behind him as we focus back in on the gaggle, and that's Giuliani. Giuliani has been able to get past all of these other drivers here at this point, and he's got a nice little advantage out in front of him as Kalinowski, Redmond, and Mateo try to be able to fight themselves out. Mateo getting dropped off the back of this pack. Here comes a move from Kalinowski down to the inside. That's going to check up Redmond a little bit. Are any of them going to be able to get the right slipstream to make this a battle to the line? If anybody can do it, it's going to be James Kalinowski here at this point, but they come to the line. Kalinowski's going to be just that too short. It is going to be Giuliani, Kalinowski, Redmond, Bootland, and Mateo coming down into pit lane. I don't know what happened there to Mateo. Looked like something was wrong with that car. Looks like Hesterman and Sejas, Dibden, Bell, Armas finishing out the drivers. So we still wait here for Felix Simoes to cross over the line. Very surprising to see the number 2 this far down in the order. He is normally a pretty consistent top 5 driver.
Yeah, disappointing day for him. Mateo undoubtedly must have got a drive-through penalty on the last lap, but you can't serve it on the last lap, as I imagine he's learnt this evening, or approximately 20 seconds ago. In fact, actually, this odds aren't done yet, so he probably still hasn't learned that. But we see it all the time, but you can't serve it on the last lap. You get that penalty no matter which way, so I think Simoes may gain a position after all of that. Mateo, big shame for him, because he actually had a very good performance. Well, there's going to be plenty of replays for us to go through. We don't usually get any interviews, but I think pretty much that last lap and the first lap will be very interesting to see. But let's first up go through the final results.
Yes, it was Lucas Perez able to take victory over Philip Vandenherk, and then Ginas Ruiz Nunez able to take the final podium position. Josh Brain was in P4, followed by Aris Papadopoulos, then Mika Hulkinen, Marco Giuliani, James Kalinowski, Chris Redmond, and Andy Bootland round out your top 10. Robert Van Wall came home in 11th, followed by Johannes Hesterman, Cesar Sejas, then Tony Dibden, Michael Bell, Aram Armas, Felix Simoes, the last driver to finish on the lead lap. Then, Mario Mateo was actually categorized as the last driver to finish on the lead lap, having that penalty assessed to him. Robert Woodward was 1 lap down, and then we get into some of the drivers that had a little bit of problems out there. Marc Metanire, Fabrice Bernier, and Robert Wayne all finishing 11 and 12 laps down, respectively. Well, I'll tell you what, Sam, this is exactly what I expected out of Monza. Just fantastic side-by-side action. As we take a look back at the restart here, very impressed that everyone was able to get that through that first corner nice and easy. It looked like a problem really arose when they got to the second and the third.
Yeah, that was a mess. Let's turn off the music. This is serious stuff right now. Heading down to turn 1, we are seeing Fabrice Bernier currently in P5. Apologies that we didn't get this replay to you sooner, because already Bernier's gone quite deep. I think it was Bernier who went deep going into the second chicane. I'm going to try and get an idea of this. I swear if the trees get in the way, I'm going to be very frustrated with this Monza circuit. But Bernier with a good draft here, and we basically get 3 wides, if I recall correctly, heading into the chicane. Or was it the yellow car just ahead? No, it was Bernier who went too deep. Has to skip across, driver ahead skipped across, a little bit of contact behind. Actually, Bernier got through it all right, and that's pretty poor for me. I managed to miss pretty much everything that happened there. Who else was involved in that one? I think Michael Bell was, so he might be able to... No, Bell wasn't involved. There were some others. I'll work on that one. But, well, in fact, actually, if we just rewind it and look very unprofessional on the broadcast, then we can try to piece together, actually what happened right there for some of the drivers.
Well, I think the big thing here for Bernier was the fact that him missing that braking zone going down into the corner there is really what set everything off. That was what was sort of the domino effect that led us into this. Is it looks like that's Madeo that I think got into the back there of the number 8 of Nunez, unless I'm very, very mistaken. He saw Bernier coming down to the inside, had to get out of the way. That threw off his braking line a little bit. There was the contact with Gonzalez Nunez, and then there is the secondary contact again that sent those multiple cars spinning around. Just, I think, a little bit of incident fixation there if you were Madeo. This is Robert Anthony Van Wall coming back on the rest of it as we see them coming in. Here is, Hesterman coming back through as well. You can see them all being able to avoid that incident, which is no easy feat to be able to do. You've really got to be careful in trying to piece your way through any of that happening. And so that obviously threw a bunch of those drivers out and certainly threw them for a loop and deprived us of what could have been a very, very fierce battle in that mid-pack.
Yeah, apologies that I couldn't get some of the other driver names there, but we'll get an idea of what happened to, I think, Kalinowski, because I think Kalinowski's going to have a fun first lap here. Let's ride on board with him. Let's go to full speed. Once the green flag actually waves, we may be for no. But it was the engine rising. Basically, Kalinowski managed to gain 11 places here on this lap one, and well, that was a lovely start. That's how you do a start. Not everyone has nailed the starts in this car soonly. It's been out for 5 months, but not great. Well, that's half the positions that he gained. I thought they were all going to be in the second chicane, honestly, but no, he did a fantastic job there. And I mean, you'll just see it all kick off ahead of him in a few moments' time.
Yeah, as we ride on board with him here, the number 15, you can see him just trying to be able to find his way around. He's going to move to the inside there of the number 14 to try to get his way by. That's Papadopoulos. Able to get that move done. Now that's Josh Brain directly up ahead of him. He's going to make the move on Brain. And then here you see all of the calamity taking place in front of him. Just sticks to the inside there, puts the car where the rest aren't, and he is able to get through cleanly. That is some good heads-up driving from James Kalinowski, and that really does explain why he was able to move up that very impressive 11 or so positions there on the first lap alone.
Yeah, that looked like more than 11, honestly. I mean, it looked like he gained 5 places on the start, gets a couple more the Curva Grande, and then seemingly about 10 as well, heading through the chicane. I also want to get a replay of the last lap of this race as well, because it seemed pretty chaotic out there. So I will find that in a second.
So when we get ready to pull that up, here is that last lap action.
Apologies. This is so. So apparently Madea did crash. So you may have been right about Madea having damage. But I think this might tell us a little bit. Here we go. This is the pack, isn't it?
Yeah, this is the pack going down into the second chicane. Oh, contact there in the back from Kalinowski, to Kalinowski. Madeo just getting that braking zone a little bit wrong, having to cut through, and that's what set up that battle that we saw. Remember, we were a little bit surprised that Madeo was that far back on track. Well, that apparently is our definitive answer of exactly what happened. Contact there, and then you see Giuliani here able to get a little bit of a good crossover on Kalinowski, and that's going to set him up for a good run here, coming under the old banking and down into Ascari.
And that's Redmond just behind them as well. I think Andy Bootland as well in the yellow car. Catching these guys in the closer stages. And then, yeah, Giuliani with a lovely line there. A little bit of contact as well for Kalinowski and Redmond behind. And whilst... I know, DJ, it didn't feel like Giuliani really had the pace of these guys through that race. It looked like he was kind of dropping back at times. Not sure if that's totally reflected because, I mean, we didn't get a proper picture of it. There was a lot going on. But I think he's maximised that result, honestly, as the car number 20.
No, I think he has as well, and I believe there was a little bit of damage to the right-hand side of Marco Giuliani's machine, and so if that is the case, he certainly drove a very, very impressive race to be able to get that car up into the position that he did. Remember, he came home in 7th place and really leading that big train that we saw.
Yeah, we've only got a fun race demonstrated by how we had to go through a few replays to really understand exactly what was going on out there. Next round of the championship is, of course, going to be next week, and we've only got a few more of these rounds as well to go. But it's going to be Mosport next time out, DJ. First up, have you been to that circuit in real life?
I have not. It is one of the ones that I have to be able to get out to. It's a bucket list track for me, but I have been able to be lucky enough to call plenty of races here on the iRacing simulator from Mosport. It is a very, very tricky track to get right, and I think in particular these radicals are going to find themselves in a hard position there. The stiff suspension of these cars, you need to be a little bit more pliant as they go around that track, and I think it's going to throw quite a few drivers for a loop. Look for some definite calamity going into Moss Corner, but I think we're going to see some fantastic side-by-side as they bring their way down into the S's.
Yeah, and a circuit which is super tricky to overtake as well. I'm always surprised whenever we go there just how tricky it is. To be fair, actually, the last couple of times we've been, it seems to be more possible. I just remember a GT4 race where, back when the BMW GT4 was like insane down the straights, and you had like 8K Porsche drivers who couldn't get past 3K BMW drivers because they didn't have the straight line speed. It is a tricky circuit to overtake often. Because down that Andretti straight, going into the S's at the end of the lap, not a proper braking zone. You have to be properly alongside. You can go around the outside, but there's not a proper braking zone where you can make up some meters. So not an easy circuit to overtake, and so will be an important qualifying, certainly more important than what we saw at Monza tonight.
Yes, it certainly will, and you heard us preview it. It will be at the same time next week here on Apex Racing TV that we will take these radicals out to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park for the Radical Racing Challenge. But on behalf of, in terms of today, that's about going to wrap things up for us here. On behalf of myself, DJ Clark, as well as Sam Fitzpatrick, who joined me in the commentary booth and was also on directing duties today, it has been an absolute pleasure to bring you all of the racing action out on track. And until we see you on the track, thanks for watching.
Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.